This is a place.
This is the place?
This is a place. We want to talk about. This is a place.
Welcome to the This is a Place podcast. My name is Brandon, and I'm joined by a man who's once again asking for my financial support, Nate. He's wanting me to invest in his vault / sound system store. What were you wanting to call that again?
We're going to call it Safe and Sound.
What a great name.
Well, I cracked myself up. So, Brandon, how was your week?
To be honest, it really stunk.
Literally?
It literally stunk. Let me tell you about it. So, I decided to be healthy again. We haven't been playing basketball for a while. And I thought I'll start going for runs again. And Monday, it ended up being a late night run. I was running around at like 10:30 I left. And I usually just run around my neighborhood. But I decided to make it a little bit longer, and there's kind of a field park over by where I live. And it's got this trail back there, so I thought, hey, why not? I'll run back behind the trail. And I had the weirdest thought enter my head as I was running. So I turned on my light on my phone so I could see what was ahead of me because there's no light out there. And I thought, what if I encountered an animal? What if that animal was a skunk? And what if I got sprayed? I mean, I wouldn't be able to go to work in the morning, right? Like, that's going to stick around for a long time, right? Have you ever been sprayed by a skunk before?
No.
Anyway, so I'm running, and that's entered in my head. I'm about finished getting to the gas station that's on the other side, and I see something in the near distance. And it had its tail sticking straight up, and it was a skunk. It's pointing right at me as I was running up.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I got lucky in, being as fast as I am. You've seen how fast I ran before. I ran real fast. And I managed to escape without smelling, and my wife confirmed that I was good. At least the bad smell wasn't from the skunk. But fast forward to last night, and once again we had another encounter. It might have been the same skunk. I think he was coming back for me since he didn't get me the first time. And our daughter woke us up at like 3 a.m. and it was the worst smell in our house. We thought it was like rotten eggs or something. And my wife was real scared that it was a gas leak. So I looked into it. I called the Dominion Energy to have them come out and check. And because it was like permeating our whole house. My daughter's room had it the worst, but it was throughout the whole house. And he came out and he's just like, hey, this is my second house in this neighborhood. I think you guys had a skunk in your neighborhood. So luckily we didn't have a gas leak. It was just the skunk coming back to get me.
Do you have a carbon monoxide detector in your house?
Yeah, but it won't detect if you have a gas leak, if it's like natural gas.
Interesting.
So, plus the CO2 doesn't have a smell, so that's why you need the detector. But with this, what I found is, if you have this rotten egg smell in your house, you should call the gas company immediately, because they put that smell in it so you'll know that you need to call somebody.
They flavor it for that reason.
Yes, yeah. And so not the same smell as the skunk smell.
So somebody else in your neighborhood had the same complaint.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was getting a couple complaints about it. He's like, there's a skunk walking around the neighborhood and it's making everybody get me up in the middle of the night. But at least he was getting double time, he told me.
Interesting.
How was your week?
Nothing crazy like that happened. It didn't stink. Nothing too interesting happened. My only complaint for the week, have you ever been to Jersey Mike's Subs?
No, and you think I would since I lived in Jersey, but I've never been there.
Yeah, you would think so. But I went there a few years ago, and then I went there this last weekend. And I remember why I've never gone back. And it's not because it's poor quality food. The food's fine. It's a sandwich. But it costs like $9 for like a 6-inch sandwich. And you're just like, how are you guys still in business when you can go across the street to Jimmy John's or
You can get $5 footlongs.
You can get 2 footlongs at Subway for $10 right now. So that's my only complaint and curiosity is who's going there and who's paying $10, well $9 for a 6-inch, and then it looks like a footlong is like $15. So, and it just reminded me of Blimpies, or I like it's cross between Blimpies and Jimmy John. So if anybody can tell me how that place is still in business and franchising, and they're actually building one over in Jordan Landing right now, so just doesn't add up for me. So that's my complaint for the week.
We haven't even talked about how the Jazz are playing again either.
No, they're
playing.
They're streaking. They're streaky, not streaking. They're streaky right now. The game.
It's weird because they're never streaky.
The game against who was it? Yesterday. The one that went to overtime. Overtime.
Against the Nuggets.
Against the Nuggets. Yeah, the Nugget game. We were up when I got a notification on my phone. We were up by 8 points or something like that, and I turned on the game, and then they didn't make a field goal for the whole time. I watched the last part of the fourth quarter, and then I'm just like, they were down by like 5 or 6 with something like less than a minute left, like 50 seconds left, and I'm like, I'm not going to watch this. Even Bowler Jack was just like, talking about this loss being bad and all that stuff, and so I changed the channel, and then all of a sudden I got another notification on my phone that they're in overtime. I was like, what? So I turned it back on, watched Rudy Gobert foul out, and then once he fouled out, they just went downhill from there. But
lost in 2 overtime by 2.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting with the playoffs that they're doing in this bubble thing they're calling it, because they pump in the sound or whatever to make it sound like it's a home and away situation.
You got the virtual fans,
but it's not going to be the same thing. Rudy Gobert's actually, his free throw percentage has gone up in the bubble, and part of the theory is because you don't have the fans, waving at you in the stadium. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, at least it's something. It's basketball. It's nice to have sports back on TV. But I wonder just how people are going to view this year's NBA champion. Not even that, just all sports. NHL is doing their thing right now, and then we just heard that there's possibility of college football not happening this fall. So,
which would be sad, so we can't do our LaVell Edwards Stadium episode this year. Gonna have to push it up to next year.
We can't talk about the Cougar Tail. We're not gonna have a Cougar Tail this year unless if we go down to the Creamery, right? Do they sell them at the Creamery?
I don't know. We're gonna have to find out.
Or is that just sporting events?
And the brownies.
And the brownies. Had to get one at third quarter. They do well when I buy a brownie.
Well, speaking of, you mentioned about the bubble for the NBA. There's a bubble at the mouth of Little Cottonwood Canyon.
A bubble? Are you trying to segue into this week's hot topic?
I am.
Are you done talking about life events?
Did you have more?
No, okay. I always have more, Brandon.
Okay, well, I was trying to segue it, and it was a bit of a reach, but it brings us to the Granite Mountain Records Vault, or as we have always known it, the Vault.
The Vault.
So luckily we were able to connect with a fan of the show who recommended we do this episode, and he was nice enough to come on with us, give us an interview since he had a little bit of first-hand experience since he worked there for a little bit. So we have our interview with Alan, and we're going to listen to what he had to say about it. Well, we want to welcome our guest, Alan. He's from... You said North Carolina is where you're at right now?
Yeah, North Carolina.
And he's been listening to our podcast and gave us some suggestions. And since he had some background with one of the places we want to cover, we decided we'd have him on the episode to talk to us more about it and give us the inside details of everything.
Right. So Alan's living in North Carolina, but he's from Utah. Right, Alan?
That's right. Yeah, born and raised in the Salt Lake Valley. Went to BYU. And then the Army picked me up and took me off to North Carolina.
So what we're talking about today is the Granite Mountain Records Vault.
Yeah, Granite Mountain Records Vault, or we'd call it the GMRV or just the vaults.
When you first told us about Granite Mountain Records Vault, I was like, what is that? And then I Googled it. I'm like, oh, that's the vault, of course.
It's the vault.
Talk about what the vault is. Give us your synopsis of it, if you would, Alan.
All right, the vaults are a record storage facility. When I was working there was about 3 million rolls of microfilm and a little over 1 million rolls of microfiche. On most of the microfilms are records, population records, census records, a lot of records. We prided ourselves on keeping those records because digital platforms change every couple of years. So it's hard to find things from a decade ago that can be read by modern computers without finding a lot of programs that you have to use to read them. But with microfilm, you can read it with a flashlight and a blank wall. That was one of the things they would tell us in the hiring, that all this stuff, as long as it's kept in temperature controlled areas, you can keep it forever. And so that's what we did. Some of the rolls of microfilm that I worked with were 55, 60 years old, and we would bring them out and print new rolls for people, take them up to the LDS Church's Family History Library, and people could do their family history work.
Very cool. How did you get a job there?
I had just graduated from BYU. This is about 2012, and my wife was still going to BYU. And I was working part-time at the Provo Library, a very prestigious job. And I decided I wanted to do something a little more interesting. And I was looking on KSL Jobs, and there was an opening for the Granite Mountain Records Vault. So I sent him an email, got an interview in downtown Salt Lake City a couple of days later, and then started working up there at the vaults. This is 2012. I was there from 2012 to 2014.
So what did you do there? What was your actual position?
Almost everybody there has the same position. You start out digitizing records. I forgot what the name's called, but you scan. There's a two-step process. You pull the film from the vault and then scan it on one of the. They have a bunch of banks of scanners there, and it will digitize it, turn it into a computer file, send it to a computer, and then at the computer, you separate it into individual images. It sounds. It's exactly as boring as it sounds, but it was a great work environment, and I really loved the people that I worked with there. From there, you can move to different pods, we called it, or different areas of the vault. You can print microfilm, or my favorite job there, printing microfiche, the 110 millimeter 3x5 card-looking pages that you can read on the microfiche readers.
Cool. I guess a lot of the reason they have this in the secure location is the LDS Church is real prominent here. They really care about preserving these records and these genealogical information for people as they do the work for them in the temples, right? So that's why they're so interested in saving this stuff. And like if all the computers went down for whatever reason, they'd still have all these records. Even if it was, had to go back to, like you said, the flashlight and the blank wall.
That is correct. And a lot of it is keeping these records and putting them on computers so that people don't have to travel downtown Salt Lake City or even come to the vaults. People can look at these records from their home. But like you said, if the internet went down, computers went down, and people still wanted to do this work, they could check out rolls of film and look at them through a flashlight. They also did a couple of really neat projects while I was there that was only tangentially related to family history. One specific project I remember was the British Army, Great Britain. They had us digitize all of their personnel records from 1910 to 1945. It was a huge project. 3.5, 4 million images on, I think, 55,000 rolls of film. Put those on computers, and we emailed them to the Queen or whoever in England.
Wow. So she didn't come herself and pick them up?
No. We invited her, but she was busy.
Do we know how the location came to be? Like, why did they choose Little Cottonwood Canyon for the location and how they did it?
from what I remember them saying, the location was chosen because it was right across the street from the quarry where they got all the quartz monzonite or granite for the Salt Lake City LDS temple. And there were some fissures in the rock, and I don't remember if it started out with a natural cave or if it was just a cleft in the rock that people walked in a ways, but they realized that a mountain this solid, just a big solid granite extrusion from the ground from old volcanoes that used to make Salt Lake, I guess, they realized that you could make a real climate controlled area in there, climate controlled cave where it wouldn't get too hot, wouldn't get too cold, and you can maintain the humidity at exactly what you needed to store documents. So it took, and there's a lot of stuff I don't remember. It took a few months maybe to blast all that out. They used dynamite and what's that stuff that just blew up in Lebanon?
Oh, the nitrate?
Yeah, ammonium nitrate. Yeah. And they blew out the rock. They went back about 60 feet, I think, dug 4 tunnels in and concreted them over, made 4 really nice little portals and a bunch of other portals in the back. And they have a really nice air conditioning system in there that keeps everything at exactly the same temperature 24 hours a day.
I guess I was reading it. It's been there since 1965, so I'm sure now that would be an undertaking to go through and do all that. But even back then, the same thing. A lot of work to carve out those spaces in the mountain.
So what, like, I've driven up Little Cottonwood Canyon a million times, and I've seen the building, and you can see the little gate. But what is it like actually driving up the hill, or is there anything cool about entering the vault, or is it just what you would expect?
So yeah, it's pretty much what you'd expect. They changed the security, and they were doing some remodeling as I was leaving. But when I started working there, you could park right in the parking lot out in front of the portals. And the portals are the rounded arches that you can see from the road if you're looking closely enough. And you could park out in front of it. You stopped at the swing gate that went up and down, and you buzzed yourself in. Security let you in. Parked your car, walked in the main door, and security let you in. There was one point of entry and exit. And when there's I think it's a BuzzFeed article of like the 10 most secure places in the world. And the vault is on that. There are a couple security guards there. It's not like you got dudes packing M16s all over the place. There's a couple armed guards from the LDS Church Security Department that let you in and out. And about halfway through my tenure there, they closed all that down because they wanted to remodel it. And we parked at a church in Sandy and took a parking ride. So that added somewhat to the security of it because you couldn't get up there at all without being in a UTA bus.
Wow.
Interesting. So what would happen if Brandon and I are just a civilian wanders over there? Sorry.
Yeah, you'd walk up the hill. The hill's probably a block and a half long. And when you were there, you'd have to wipe all the sweat off, catch your breath, buzz the buzzer, and they'd say, show your badge. And you'd say, oh, shoot, left it down in the car. And they'd say, go down in the car and get it. And by the time you got back down to the bottom, wiped the sweat off, caught your breath again, you'd say, man, it's not worth it.
So we did drive over there today, actually, and we went into where you go up to the hill, and we didn't go very far.
The swing gate he was talking about.
Yeah, right. And it was open, that first gate, and then the one where you'd have to kind of be buzzed in was closed. But we parked outside because we didn't want to get as far away as we could, but still be able to just get a picture of what's right there. And we could see in the distance, even a camera. I was like, man, if we're here for much longer, they're going to come down and say something to us just because they don't want people probably even messing around even close to there.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like Area 51 type security or...
Well, we'll get into that, Nate. You're jumping ahead a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, you can see it as you're driving into Little Cottonwood. You can see it up there on the mountain, but you can't really get a good view of it now. I saw a guy on YouTube somehow got up there close to the portals, as you were saying, and it was about a 20-second video. He said, oh, I'm here at the vault. And then quickly after that, someone walked up and said, hey, you can't be here. You're trespassing. And then the video ended. Oh. So I assume our experience would have been very similar to that.
And the guy's never been heard of again.
Yeah. Since there's only that one road that goes up, the security guards will probably watch you. sit there for out of the 5 minutes it takes to walk up, and then take a leisurely stroll out the door and let you go. They were the nicest dudes there when I was working there. So, your life wouldn't be in any danger, but they would politely but firmly ask you to leave.
Well, this place is, you talked about that BuzzFeed. I didn't see that specific one, but I did watch a video on the top 9 most secure places, and it was at the beginning of the list. There's lots of conspiracy theories related with this place since it's so secure and secret. What do you know about all of that, Alan?
Oh, man. So there is the place is not just rolls of microfilm. There's lots of really old books. Conspiracy theories. The one that I heard most often, and the one that my dad to this day bothers me about. Oh, so they let you handle the sword of Laban while you're in there? Let you spin the needle on the Liahona?
So sword of Laban, for those that don't know, in the Book of Mormon, Laban was, I guess, just this high-ranking official that got his head chopped off by Nephi, one of the key characters in the Book of Mormon. So he took that sword, and supposedly the church has it, and it's there in the vault, right?
Well, that's what they say. I explored every inch of that vault, and I have the reprimands to prove it, but I never saw it. Never saw that. One of my favorite things to look at, though, was they had tithing records from the founding of St. George, Provo, and Logan, and they from 1848, 1849 they started up until the 1970s, and they're bound in these beautiful leather-bound books. And something like that would be valuable just for the historical significance and the art of the bookbinding. They have a lot of neat things like that from the early pioneer history of the LDS Church. A lot of it is kind of pedestrian stuff, like every film that the LDS missionaries have ever shown, from the reels from my dad's day, where they had to carry around the film strip projector with the tape recorder. They have every original copy of that. They have all the Man's Search for Happiness and Families Are Forever.
The phone call.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for bringing that up. Oh, they have original copies of. Yeah, that took me to a place just instantly. You hear some of those words, the phone call, Cipher in the Snow.
Oh man, Cipher in the Snow. I hate that one.
They have original copies of every language printing of the Book of Mormon, like the initial test copies. And they have hundreds of other things that are in constant rotation between there and various places downtown. So there are a couple storage places that are climate controlled downtown. And again, I'm speaking from 6 years ago, so a lot of this may have changed. If anybody listening to this is planning on a heist, then don't use me as a reference. A lot of the stuff is transferred between different buildings downtown. The Church History Museum, some of it gets displayed at the conference center. Some of it is available at the Family History Library. And then a lot of it's permanently stored at the vaults.
So if the Sword of Laban is not there and stuff like that, why is this place so secure? Why does it make the top 10 list?
Ooh, I think the secrecy is what makes the top 10 list. The truth is, I don't want to say in this case stranger than fiction, but a lot more boring than fiction. There's a lot of mystique surrounding it, but there's nothing mystical about 3 million rolls of microfilm. It's just mundane enough that people think, oh, there's got to be something else going on in there. And I thought there was something else going in there. That's why I explored it a couple times. There is some cool stuff in there. There's a pond in the back that has a little kayak in it.
What?
So I hope as the water leaks down through the vaults, let me back up a little bit. The vault itself, all the water from all the plumbing water, from the water they use in the toilet to the water they fill up the sinks with to the water they use in the air conditioning, comes from clefts in the rock that it's been seeping down from Utah's greatest snow on earth for hundreds of thousands of years. And it collects in a little reservoir that they use to power everything water powered in there. And there's a little kayak in there that maintenance uses to test the water, and they paddle around in it.
Did you ever get to go in the kayak?
No, I didn't.
Oh man,
that means the sword is in the pond.
Oh,
could be,
right?
It's kind of like in the Harry Potter movie when he has to get the Horcrux by drinking all the stuff. It's kind of like that, right?
I never saw Harry Potter. We've gone over this, bud.
Oh man. Okay, never mind.
It's a King Arthur thing. There's a lady of the lake that when the time comes, she'll hold her arm up with the sword.
The sword, the sealed portion of the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
All that stuff. What about any food storage? Rumors that there's a lot of stockpile of food storage as well as weapons.
No, there's not. There's neither. In fact, I was making sure nobody's listening. I was a concealed weapons holder when I worked there, and I was told very explicitly in my hiring, we do not bring anything if you're a concealed weapons holder. I thought, oh man, I had to leave it at home. The only stockpile of weapons are the pistols that the security guards have, but food storage, no, there's no food storage. They clean out the fridge diligently at the end of each week because having animals of any type in there would be disastrous. A lot of the film is the old celluloid stuff that mice find particularly delicious, and having any form of vermin in there they'd run ragged through it.
So did you guys have like a break room / kitchen area, or what did you guys do for lunch?
Yeah, we had a break room kitchen area that we were responsible for keeping really clean. The break room had a couple couches. We used it for devotionals. We'd have a morning devotional every morning, and then once a week we would take an hour and have a lengthier devotional. And then we would put the tables back, and that would be the lunch area. And our little kitchen had a little stove and a microwave. Pretty regular stuff. Nothing too crazy.
So how many employees are there on site every day? How many people are working, would you say?
When I was working there were about 50. And that includes management, maintenance, the guys who ran the computer servers. That was a very important job for them. About 50 rotating through between full-time and part-time. And then we had about 7 to 10 church service missionaries.
Okay.
And are they, what hours of operation, or what kind of work hours would you do?
I think it's about 8 to 4, pretty regular hours. It was really nice. My wife would come up and have lunch at regular times. So I think, 8 to 4 with lunch at noon. Fairly regular job. No need for a night shift doing that work.
Just the guards.
Just the guards. The guards and sometimes the server guys when they would have to fix the computers that we had.
At some point the church had posted, over the years they've been trying to be more transparent with everything. Don't want people to think there's all these secrets that they have, and they're just pretty honest. And they posted virtual tours of the vaults at some point, which I couldn't find, and they had other videos explaining it. But I think the most fun thing I came across was, if you recall back, years and years ago, back last September, when life was more normal, and all we were worried about was Area 51, and everybody was trying to break into there. Was that September?
It was last fall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not sure.
Last summer or fall, yeah. Where they were going to do some invade Area 51, and they ended up having a rave or something and getting lost. Not even doing it.
Exactly. So, of course, Utah had to chime in and have their own version of it, and there was a Area 51-like raid scheduled for the vault so they could go in and see all these things, go see Laban's sword and everything else.
You said your wife would come up and have lunch with you. Does that mean she had clearance to get in?
No, she would meet me down at the road on Little Cottonwood Canyon Road, and we'd go across the street or down to a park, down to the quarry usually.
Right.
So she didn't have clearance. She never got in. It was there were very rare times when they would do tours, and it was usually in conjunction with a general authority visit.
So she never got to see it.
She never got to see it. Nope.
All right.
She got to see the outside, and that's about as far as almost everybody will ever go.
Parking lot?
Yeah, got to see the parking lot before they closed the parking lot down.
And I'm sure you were prohibited from taking photos yourself as well.
Yeah. Yep. That was prohibited.
So they set up this event called Storm the Church Vault. They Can't Stop All of Us, similar to the Area 51 raid. And it was scheduled before conference on October 5th last year for 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And they said, let's see them stones. We will be meeting at the bottom of Little Cottonwood Canyon early Sunday morning before the first session of General Conference to storm the vault. They are not armed, so this should be pretty easy. But if they would have actually gone through with it, sounds like they were armed, so it wouldn't have been that easy.
Yep. Yeah, if something like that Area 51 raid had happened, though, I'm not exaggerating when I say the vault doors are 3.5 feet thick. You think of the thickest bank vault you've ever seen. Let's talk about Harry Potter, the Gringotts vault.
Okay.
My kids are insane about Harry Potter, so I get to hear about the Gringotts goblins all day long. The vault it's easily 3.5 feet. The vault door is 3.5 feet thick. There are posts sticking out of it that go into the rock about 1.5 feet, and they're probably 6 inches in diameter. Pretty solid, pretty impregnable. It can stop all of you guys on the internet.
Okay.
So if they thought they were coming, they would just shut the vault. And
that's all they would do. Yeah,
say,
the security
well,
guards wouldn't go crazy.
I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Wow, I kind of wish they would have done that now. That would have been interesting. You just take pictures with the guards and be like, all right, can we at least get some out of this?
Get a bunch of selfies. Somebody tried, when I was working there, somebody flew a drone up there and they crashed it against the Granite Mountain. And when I say Granite Mountain, again, it is a solid chunk of granite that's probably 2,000 feet tall by a mile wide, just a big solid piece of rock with a couple cracks in it. They just smashed that drone and they had to send a rescue climber up there to get the drone.
So wait, who smashed the drone? Was it the guards, the church, or they just crashed it?
It's just somebody. So they don't know who did it, and somebody called and said, "Hey, I accidentally smashed my drone up there," and so the security guards called rescue climbers from, I think it was Salt Lake County, and they rappelled up there and got the dude his drone back. We never found out whether it was somebody just taking pictures for YouTube or the Park Service or something, but yeah, somebody's got some footage of a drone ending its life on the Granite Mountain.
You need to get in contact with that person.
Yeah, if he's out there listening to your podcast, that'd be pretty cool to see.
He's probably gone now too.
Oh yeah, he's not around anymore.
Same guy. It's probably the same guy that did YouTube.
His name is now inscribed inside the vault because he is no longer living.
Put him on the list, like they used to stamp on the side of old bombers.
Yeah. Well, anything else you have to share? Any other interesting experiences or something that the lay people such as ourselves would not really know?
A little bit of historical trivia. So the vault used 3 main stocks of film, and if you're not into film history, camera history, then this will probably be pretty boring. But I thought it was pretty neat. They printed on 16 millimeter film, 35 millimeter film, and I think 110 millimeter microfiche. The very last pallet of 35 millimeter film that the Kodak film company ever made was bought by the Granite Mountain Vault.
Wow.
So that's Kodak stayed in business for like their film. Like they're making something now. They're making digital cameras or something, but their film section stayed in business because of a deal they had with the church history department, and we bought their very last pallet of film.
So from there at the beginning all the way to the end.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yep. I started a gym there. This is trivia. I got in trouble once for starting a gym. I had some weights, and I'd take a break every hour, and I ended up throwing the calibration off on the machines. So the machines that they use to digitize the records are pretty sensitive, and I had some kettlebells that I would swing around, and when I would put them down, it would throw the machines out of sync. You might want to put this in. I just thought it was fun. Might not want to put this in. It's more boring than I thought it would be, but the job wasn't an exciting job, but it was a worthwhile job. I'm glad that I worked there. I had excellent coworkers, excellent management. It's a real low-key, chill environment to work in, and an incredibly unique experience, part of Utah history.
Yeah, like you said, right there next to the quarry, too.
What about winter months with the snow? Did that ever become an issue getting into work?
Oh, good question. Yes, it did. There were so there was a park and ride down at the bottom of the canyon in a church in Sandy, like I mentioned before, and that there was always an agreement with the ward that building belonged to, that if people's cars couldn't make it up the canyon, then they could use that as a park and ride. And so during the winter months, Little Cottonwood Canyon was restricted to people with 4-wheel drive and snow tires. And I had a Volkswagen Jetta at the time with both 4-wheel drive and snow tires. And so I got to play chauffeur for my first winter there. And
okay.
if I don't know how they do it now, but when they were doing the park and ride, they had to switch from the UTA bus to a 4-wheel drive Sprinter van, I believe.
So you would just, how far would you mean just the employees of the vault you would take?
Yeah, that was it. Just the employees of the vault. There were people that worked up the ski resorts up there that had a different arrangement, but at the vault we had a park and ride / carpool system.
And luckily it's not too far up the canyon compared to the ski resorts, right?
Yeah, it was only about a mile. I walked it a couple times. It wasn't bad at all. When they were remodeling, I was on the monument committee. It was a very involved work environment. They had committees for party committees out the wazoo. We had 3 parties every quarter. It was a great place. I was on the monument committee. We took a giant chunk of granite out from the excavation area where they had to blast a little bit more to get a new entrance in there. And we took a big chunk and we were going to carve something real nice on it. We had this really cool design and we made sure to work a sword into the design just in case. Just in case.
All right. Well, thank you, Alan, for indulging us and sharing your experiences about the vault.
Thank you guys for having me on. This was a great opportunity.
Yeah. And you mentioned you have a lot of other experiences with Utah, a lot of other connections you've had. So hopefully we can have you again on soon and talk about some of those as
That
well.
would be great. So I look forward to it. If anybody who worked with me at the vault is listening to this, thank you for being good coworkers. Thank you again. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Alan.
Talk to you later.
Well, that was really cool having Alan on and giving us his input. I was a little disappointed in the fact that there wasn't anything crazy going on in the vault. I used to work at one of the office buildings in Thanksgiving Point, and the guy who did the maintenance there also used to work at the vault and kind of talked about similar things that Alan mentioned. So now 2 people have basically let me know that there's nothing too exciting going on inside the vault as far as secrecy goes. So that was a little,
we might have to go to
I
the
guess,
higher
disappointing,
ups to get that.
Yeah, higher ups. So maybe there is, and they're just sworn to secrecy. But it was fun to hear Alan's experiences and get firsthand knowledge of what goes on at the vault and one thing I didn't know was the whole pond
that's
kayak
cool.
thing. So that was kind of interesting fact to learn. So thanks, Alan, for reaching out to us and be willing to lend your voice to us.
If we have any other listeners with other cool experiences from places they've worked or have a first-hand experience with, let us know, and we'd love to talk with you or have you on the episode if you're interested.
I did hear, though, Brandon, that a duck once robbed the vault.
Really?
Yeah, because he quacked the code. Why did the janitor get fired from the bank?
Why?
Because he cleaned out the vault.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and pole vault over the rest of your dumb jokes, Nate.
All right.
And we're going to end the episode right here. Thanks for listening to This Is a Place podcast.
We'll see you all next week.